Would you like to learn how to make plant-based Parmesan cheese at home?
Well, today on WTF, we're going to show you how to make a fantastic plant-based Parmesan that you can grate over pasta or even shave over a salad. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guerin.
And I'm Janie Wang, one of the owners of Modernist Pantry. Here on WTF, every week we talk about unique ingredients and techniques and show you recipes that you can do in your kitchen. So remember, subscribe and ring the bell and you'll get notified of our episodes when they come out. This week, we're going to be showing you how to make a DIY plant-based vegan Parmesan cheese that you can grate it, you can shred it, and you can mix it into your sauces. So Scott's going to tell you what exactly goes into a plant-based Parmesan and kind of how we kind of made it our own, because we just have to do things a little bit different and a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, so actually one of the big ingredients for this is our Parmesan flavoring.
Okay.
Now it's a natural flavoring and it tastes very much like Parmesan, so we're able to make a nut-based cheese that tastes, melts, and acts like Parmesan.
Yeah, and certainly a lot of people out there, they're doing nut-based cheeses. What exactly is your recipe look like that makes it different from the other ones?
I think in its simplicity. So we started with a base recipe from our friend Chef Sky Michael Conroy. I think it's really just simple. So if we get into it, we can definitely see exactly what the differences are.
Yeah, great.
Because some people add a lot of things to it, and I find that sometimes it's overcomplicated when this is very, very simple. Basically, we start with cashews. So you want to start with like a very neutral flavored nut. We tried cashews, we tried a couple other different types of nuts, macadamia nut, which we thought would work great, but there's just a bit too much oil. So we're gonna, for this, I just suggest staying with cashews, because that's gonna be like the best for what we're making here. And what we want to do is we want to just add our dry ingredients. So I'm going to add in some nutritional yeast flakes, which already have like a cheesiness to them. These are our organic nutritional yeast flakes, so you're not going to get that really bright kind of yellowing that you get sometimes. Lactic acid, which is going to be for the flavor that's or the acid that's naturally in cheese. So you want that acid to kind of come through and be nice and bright, especially for a long fermented cheese like a Parmesan. And then salt. And when we're using the salt, I suggest using a salt that is coarse grade. So if you're going to use like a table salt, you're not going to have the right texture, because in Parmesan you have those little calcium deposits, and this type of salt, definitely a coarse, is going to give you that little crunch when you're biting into it and tasting it, which is a great part of Parmesan.
Yeah, good pro tip.
Yes, and then we have our Parmesan flavor. Now, some people think, well, why can't I just put the Parmesan flavor directly on, or that seemed like a very small amount. This is a strong flavoring. So let's not overdo it. If you find that you make this and you go, oh, it could use a little bit more, add it to it next time. But definitely I wouldn't suggest going too far with the Parmesan flavor on the first try. Stick with our recipe and then alter it if you need to.
Yeah, before we started shooting, I said to Scott, because I have a little bit of the Parmesan right here, and I said, this doesn't smell that strong. I totally take that back. It smells very strong.
Yeah, once it gets poured right and it gets a little airborne, it's definitely a strong aroma. But it's very easy to kind of mask that if you need to, store it for times at home. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in here and I'm just going to pulse it until it makes almost like cashew flour.
Okay.
So you can see nice fine grains. It's not completely pulverized into a cashew butter, and that's where we want it. Now the next thing we're going to be adding is some coconut oil. So this is the part where you're going to get a lot of that it's not really an emulsification, but it just hydrates all those dry ingredients and makes it all stick together. So I'm just going to pour this directly in.
All right, and that's our Druids Grove organic coconut oil.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so that's our Druids Grove. And one big thing about that is that it is flavorless, right? So you're not having to worry about having coconut cheese at this point. So I'm just going to pulse this again until it starts to come together. It's not going to turn into a ball, but you're going to notice that it's going to start to get fully hydrated on the sides, and then you'll be able to take it out and pack it into your mold. So we can just pulse this.
All right, so now that you've pulsed it a bunch of times, how do people know when they have the right texture going?
So when you have the right texture, if you kind of squeeze it together, you'll notice that it sticks and it'll like stay on the spoon like that. And especially when you start to pack it down, it'll become nice and flat. If you want to go further, I would suggest not going to the point where it turns into cashew butter, because at that point, a lot of the oil can separate out and you won't have the right consistency. You want it to be a little grainy when you're putting it into the mold here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and I'm going to just start pouring it.
So while you're doing that, I think for people who are not familiar with our vegan cheese flavors, we actually have 4 different flavors. We have the Parmesan, cheddar, mozzarella, and brie, and we use them in all of our vegan cheese kits. You know, if you want to learn more about that, at the end of this episode, we'll link to our episode that we did all about our vegan cheese kits, where you get everything you need in order to make this, the different cheeses, except for the Parmesan, which we are doing from scratch pretty much here. So you can certainly learn about that, and I would say, just full disclaimer, they are very strong flavors. If you get one, I would recommend like double bagging it and then tossing it in the freezer to store, or your kitchen will smell very cheesy.
Yeah, so that's a great thing. Throw it in the freezer, especially double bag, like Janie said. It's going to help. So basically what I'm doing is doing layers, and I'm just patting it down. If you have something like a muddle like this, you can absolutely use this, or anything flat. Works really well, but you don't want it to be too loose, because you're going to end up with a cheese that's a bit too crumbly.
Okay.
One thing I like is if you have a food saver or a vacuum sealer, use that, because that will take out all of the extra like air in between, and you'll get a really dense cheese that's great for grating and shaving, everything like that.
That's a great pro tip.
Pat this down a little bit more, and then we actually have a surprise. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. I'm going to bring back a very large wheel of Parmesan that we made, just to show you.
Cool. And once they put it in their refrigerator, how long do they wait before this is ready?
I would give it about 4 hours. You want to make sure that everything all the way through is completely cooled, because that coconut oil is really what holds it all together. So that's coating everything. So once we do this, we have to let it completely cool, or else it's just going to be too crumbly.
Okay. Well, we'll be right back. Okay, as you can see here now, we are super excited to show you what the cheese looks like and tastes like. But before we get into it, I wanted to talk about this week's giveaway, which is going to be a bag of our vegan plant-based Parmesan flavor. So it's a 1-pound bag. And in order to enter to win, just leave in the comments below a dairy-based recipe that you would like us to see, see us veganize it, because those are always really interesting challenges. So I'm interested in what other people want to see. All right. So remember, leave a comment on a dairy-based recipe in order to enter to win. Okay. All right. I see a giant block of cheese. What do we got here?
All right. So we made this is pretty much a quadruple batch of our cheese, which you can do in one food processor. It just takes a little bit more time. But we packed it into 2 of those molds that you saw, and we put them together so you can have a wheel of cheese if you wanted to present something like that, for a really nice cheese plate, or, even if you wanted to have a lot of it, you can keep it like this for a long period of time. Everything in there is very stable, and there's enough salt. It's going to be good for a long period of time. Just make sure, obviously, you wrap it properly and everything like that. It freezes very well, too. So what we have here is we have a tomato sauce. So this is completely plant-based, olive oil, garlic, oregano, chili flake, tomatoes, your normal kind of tomato sauce. But one thing that people tend to do is they grate a lot of Parmesan into their sauce to finish the sauce. It helps coat the pasta, it helps make it nice and creamy. So if you wanted to do that, you can just do that very easily, and you can see it grates perfectly
that's
over the top. And it mixes in very well. But then you can also take it, and if you wanted to make just shavings over a salad, you can shave.
Oh, I like that too. That's great.
Directly over the top of a salad. One thing you have to do is just make sure that you keep it nice and cool. And if you pack it really well, it shaves even better. So the better you pack it, the better it shaves.
Okay.
So we have that, and as you see, go back to this. You can see it mixes in beautifully. Makes it nice and creamy. And if you have a lot of olive oil, which I like a lot of olive oil in my sauce, it helps emulsify that directly in because of the coconut oil in there and the proteins from the cashew. So you can see it's beautiful, just like a regular tomato sauce. And then we can put some pasta directly in there. We can make beautiful dishes right out of sauce. Mix it in.
Yeah.
It coats perfectly.
And I know one question that we've gotten in the past is that if you make a plant-based cheese like this, can you age it in order to intensify the flavor?
So the flavor is going to pretty much stay the same. Aging it will do not what you think it does, right? It's not going to ferment in a particular way. It could potentially dry out, but at that point, it may just become more crumbly. This is made to just be made and set and then used, right? So rather than having to age it, you can just take it and use it. And if you want it to taste a little bit more fermenting, maybe you add a little bit more of the Parmesan flavor or more of the nutritional yeast flakes. So I'm just gonna take this, there we go. Just a little bit. So if I put this onto the plate, garnish it with some basil leaves, and then you can also take your plant-based parm and you can microplane it. So if we take this, and we can microplane right over the top, just like we would with a dairy-based Parmesan.
That looks fantastic.
Right. So anything you can do with Parmesan, you can do with this plant-based.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. You want to try some?
Yeah.
Fork right there.
Oh, I thought you meant just, I'm going to try a little bit of this cheese. It's super cheesy. It's tasty. All right, now I will eat a little bit of pasta. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go with the pasta. So I think what I like about this cheese is that it's really easy to make. Like you literally just pulse it a bunch of times, packed it, and that was it, right?
Yeah, let it cool, and that's it. And if you keep it cool, it's going to grate and shave perfectly. So,
well, there you go. You can get this recipe in the links in the description below, and check out our our episode all about cheese kits. And we also have a wonderful recipe and episode all about plant-based meat. I would strongly recommend checking that out as well. We have a recipe for plant-based meatballs, which would go fantastic with this sauce and pasta here. So check those out. Let us know what you think. And until next week, from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
and I'm Scott Guerin.